It all started with a storm. Not the light, romantic kind that lulls you to sleep, but the kind that cracks like a whip and shakes the whole house to its core. I'd been stuck indoors all day with nothing but the hum of the fridge and the occasional crackle of static from my radio to keep me company. It was one of those weekends where everything feels a little off. My best friend, Sam, called around 8 p.m. His voice buzzed with a reckless energy that I could only chalk up to boredom. "Hey, dude, got the perfect cure for this dreary night. Remember that Ouija board my cousin gave me?" Of course I remembered. It was this ancient-looking thing with letters and numbers burned into the wood, and a planchette so worn it practically glided on its own. Sam had been raving about it for months, but I'd always shrugged it off as some hokey nonsense. Tonight, though, something about the storm, the dark, the loneliness, it made his idea sound fun. I drove to Sam's house, the rain pounding my windshield like tiny fists. By the time I got there, his living room was already set up like a scene from some low-budget horror flick. Candles flickered on every surface, their flames dancing like they were nervous about what was to come. "Don't laugh," Sam said, smirking as he pulled out the board. "We're gonna make history tonight." We sat on the floor, the Ouija board between us, the candles casting strange shadows on the walls. I couldn't help but notice how the storm outside seemed to be getting worse, the wind howling like some wounded animal. Sam grinned as he placed the planchette on the board, his fingers twitching with excitement. "All right," he said. "The rules are simple. We place our fingers lightly on the planchette and ask questions. If there's a spirit, it'll move to answer." "Sure," I said, though my voice betrayed my skepticism. "And if it starts floating on its own, I'm out of here." Sam rolled his eyes. "Just trust the process, man." We placed our fingers on the planchette. Felt cold, unnaturally so, like it had been sitting in a freezer. Sam started with the usual nonsense. "Is there anyone here who wants to speak with us?" For a few seconds, nothing happened. The storm raged on, the wind rattling the windows, but the board stayed still. I was about to crack a joke when the planchette jerked slightly. My heart skipped a beat. "Dude, stop messing around," I said, trying to sound annoyed, but my voice shook. "I'm not doing anything." Sam shot back, his wide eyes locking onto mine. The planchette began to move, slowly at first, then faster, tracing out letters. "Hello. Who are you?" Sam asked, his voice now tinged with genuine curiosity. The planchette hesitated before spelling out, Sarah. "Sarah?" I repeated, glancing at Sam. "Who's Sarah?" "I don't know," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Sam pressed on. "Sarah, are you with us right now?" The candles flickered wildly, and the planchette slid to YS. The storm outside seemed to sync with the intensity of the moment, thunder cracking just as the planchette moved. My fingers trembled, and I could feel the sweat on my palms making it harder to keep a steady touch. Sam leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Sarah, why are you here?" The planchette slid quickly across the board, as if impatient. "WATCHING. A chill ran down my spine, and I instinctively looked over my shoulder. The room was empty, but the shadows cast by the candles seemed to stretch and shift in ways that made my stomach churn. "Watching," Sam repeated. His voice cracked slightly, a sound I'd never heard from him before. What are you watching?" The planchette stopped for a moment, as though considering the question. Then, slowly, it spelled out, YOU. "Okay, that's enough," I said, yanking my fingers off the planchette. My heart was racing, my breath shallow. "This isn't funny anymore, Sam." "I'm not doing this," he snapped, his face pale. "You think I'm moving it?" Before I could respond, the planchette moved again on its own. Both our hands were off it now, but it slid across the board with an eerie precision. "Okay. Look where?" Sam stammered. The candles flickered violently, one of them going out completely, and then, like a scene out of a nightmare, there was a sound from upstairs. A slow, deliberate creak of floorboards, as if someone was pacing back and forth. "Who else is here?" I hissed, my voice barely above a whisper. "No one," Sam said, his eyes wide. "It's just us, man. I swear." Another loud creak. Then another. The sound was moving, coming closer to the stairs. I could feel the blood drain from my face as I glanced at the darkened doorway leading to the second floor. "Sarah," Sam said, his voice trembling. "Is that you?" The planchette moved again, spelling out one word that sent my heart plummeting. "No." The creaking grew louder, more deliberate. Whoever or whatever was upstairs was coming down. Sam and I sat frozen, the Ouija board between us, the planchette now still as if mocking us. The air felt heavy, like the room itself was holding its breath. "Should we check?" Sam whispered, his voice barely audible. I shook my head violently. "Are you insane? We're not checking anything." But even as I said it, my eyes darted to the stairs. The flickering candlelight illuminated only the first few steps, the rest swallowed by darkness. Then, a shadow moved at the top of the stairs. It was slow, deliberate, like someone leaning just far enough to watch us without being fully seen. "Did you see that?" I hissed, my voice cracking. Sam nodded, his face pale. "We need to get out of here." Just as he said it, the shadow moved again, this time descending a step. A loud thud echoed through the house, followed by a guttural scraping sound that sent shivers down my spine. It wasn't footsteps. It was something dragging itself closer. "Sarah," Sam said, his voice trembling. "What's happening? What did we do?" The planchette sprang to life again, jerking violently across the board. We didn't touch it, but it moved with purpose, faster than before. "PNED. My stomach turned. "Opened what?" I demanded, my voice a mix of anger and fear. The scraping sound grew louder, closer. Another step creaked, and then another. Whatever was coming down the stairs was nearly at the bottom now. Sam grabbed my arm, his nails digging into my skin. "We have to close the board," he shouted. He lunged for the planchette, his hands trembling as he tried to move it to goodbye. But the moment he touched it, the candles all blew out at once, plunging the room into darkness. The only light was the occasional flash of lightning through the window, each one illuminating the staircase for just a split second. And that's when we saw it. A figure stood at the bottom of the stairs, its silhouette impossibly tall and thin. Its head was cocked at an unnatural angle, and its arms hung limply, nearly touching the floor. Lightning flashed again, and I caught a glimpse of its face. Pale, featureless, with sunken black pits where eyes should have been. Sam screamed, scrambling backward, and I wasn't far behind. The figure didn't move, just stood there, watching us with those hollow sockets. "Close it! Close it now!" I yelled. Sam fumbled with the planchette, finally dragging it to goodbye. The second he did, the figure vanished. No fading, no retreat. It was just gone. The silence that followed was deafening. We sat there in the dark, shaking, the storm outside finally starting to ease. Neither of us spoke for what felt like an eternity. "We shouldn't have done that," Sam finally whispered. "No kidding," I muttered, still staring at the now empty staircase. "What the hell was that?" Sam didn't answer. He just stared at the board, his face pale and drenched in sweat. We burned the Ouija board that night, took it out to the backyard, poured lighter fluid over it, and watched the flames consume it. But even as it turned to ash, I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever we'd opened wasn't gone. And now, every time there's a storm, I swear I hear the faint sound of creaking floorboards. The days that followed were a blur of uneasy silence between Sam and me. Neither of us talked about what we saw, not really. A few awkward mentions here and there, but it always ended the same way, with one of us shutting down and changing the subject. The memory felt too raw, too unreal, but the sense of dread didn't go away. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, sure I'd heard footsteps in the hall outside my bedroom, the kind that were too slow to belong to anyone in my house. Sam stopped answering my texts altogether. I assumed he was trying to move on in his own way, but it felt like he was distancing himself on purpose. A week later, I found out why. Sam's mom called me late at night. Her voice panicked. "Have you seen Sam? He didn't come home last night." My stomach dropped. No, I haven't. Did you call his work? He didn't show up there, either, she said, her words rushed and trembling. He mentioned you last week. Something about a Ouija board? I didn't understand, but I think something's wrong. I hung up and drove to Sam's house immediately. The storm that night had returned, as if mocking me, the rain pounding the roof of my car like it wanted to cave it in. When I got there, the house was dark. I knocked on the door. No answer. But the back door? It was wide open. Steeling myself, I stepped inside, calling Sam's name. My voice echoed in the empty house. The living room still smelled faintly of burnt wood, a reminder of the night we destroyed the Ouija board. I made my way upstairs, my heart hammering in my chest. His bedroom door was ajar, the faint glow of his computer monitor spilling into the hallway. I pushed the door open slowly. The room was empty except for his desk. On it, the Ouija board sat, charred and blackened from the fire. My breath caught in my throat. We'd burned it. I saw it turn to ash with my own eyes. And yet, there it was. The planchette sat on top, perfectly positioned in the center. As I stared at it, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from Sam's number. Help me. My hands shook as I typed back. Where are you? The response came instantly. Behind you. I spun around, but the room was empty. The door slammed shut behind me, and the monitor on Sam's desk flickered, static filling the screen. A faint sound came through the speakers. A low, guttural growl that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. The planchette moved. I wasn't touching it. No one was touching it. But it slid across the board, spelling out one final word. M-I-N-E. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't sleep for days after. Sam never came back. The police called it a missing persons case, but I knew the truth. The thing we opened that night, it hadn't left. It had just taken Sam. I moved out of town not long after, changed my number, tried to start over. But no matter how far I go, storms seem to find me. And every time they do, I swear I hear that same slow creaking of floorboards, always stopping right outside my bedroom door. I haven't touched another Ouija board since, and I never will. Oh, you'd think that would be the end of it. Move out of town, cut ties, try to forget. But life has a funny way of reminding you about the things you can't outrun. A year passed. I was living in a small apartment in Chicago, far from the sleepy suburb where everything happened. I got a job, kept my head down, and avoided storms like the plague. It wasn't much of a life, but it was mine. One night, as I was heading home, a strange feeling crept over me. The streets were unusually quiet, even for midnight in my neighborhood. No cars, no people, just the faint hum of streetlights and the distant rumble of thunder. The storm was coming. When I got to my apartment, something felt off. My door wasn't locked. I always locked my door. My stomach churned as I stepped inside, flipping the light switch. The bulb buzzed and flickered, casting weak shadows across the room. Everything looked normal at first glance until I saw it. The Ouija board. It was sitting on my coffee table, perfectly intact, as though it had never been burned. My blood turned to ice. I didn't own a Ouija board. I hadn't touched one since that night. I backed away, my mind racing. Was someone playing a prank? Did Sam somehow? No, Sam was gone. I knew that. The planchette moved. I wasn't even near it, but it moved, sliding across the board with a scraping sound that made my teeth ache. Chillo. I stood frozen, my breath caught in my throat. Who is this? I whispered, my voice shaking. The planchette slid again. Sam. No, I said, shaking my head. No, you're lying. You're not Sam. The planchette jerked violently, spelling out N-O-T-S-A-M. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over the rug. The lights flickered again, and the air grew heavy, suffocating. The shadows on the walls seemed to stretch and shift, forming shapes that didn't belong. Why are you here? I demanded, my voice cracking. The planchette moved faster now, almost frenzied. Open. Open what? I yelled. What do you want from me? Thunder cracked outside, loud enough to rattle the windows. The planchette stopped moving, and for a moment, everything was silent. Then, in a slow, deliberate motion, it spelled out one final message. YOU. The room went dark. The candles the shadows on the walls came alive, writhing and twisting as if they were trying to crawl out of the plaster. And then I felt it. A hand, cold, skeletal, and impossibly strong, gripping my shoulder. I whipped around, but there was no one there. Just the shadows, closing in, and the sound of my own ragged breathing. That was the last night I spent in that apartment. I left everything behind. The board, the furniture, even the clothes in my closet. I got in my car and drove until the sun came up, the storm finally breaking as the first rays of dawn lit the horizon. I still don't know what we let out that night with the Ouija board. Maybe I never will. But sometimes, when I'm alone, I feel that same icy grip on my shoulder, and I know it's still watching. It's been 5 years since that night, and I'd love to tell you it's all behind me, that I've moved on, found peace, and no longer feel that creeping dread every time the wind picks up. But that would be a lie. I changed my name, moved across the country again, and started a new life where no one knows me or what I've been through. I keep my lights on at night, my windows sealed tight, and I never let a storm catch me off guard. But no matter how careful I am, it's still there. You see, the thing we unleashed isn't just attached to the board. It's attached to me. I know that now. I've seen its shadow in the corner of my eye when I'm alone in a room. I've heard its whispers in the dead of night, words I don't understand but feel deep in my bones. It's patient. It doesn't come at me head on. It toys with me, pushing me closer to the edge with every fleeting glimpse, every flicker of a light bulb, every unexplained knock in the night. It wants me to break. And Sam? I think about him every day. I wonder if he's trapped somewhere, a shadow in that other world, screaming for help that no one will ever hear. Or worse, I wonder if he's become one of them, whatever they are. A few months ago, I had the nightmare again, the same one I've been having since this all started. I'm back in Sam's living room, the storm raging outside, and the board is there on the floor. The planchette moves on its own, but this time it spells out one word, over and over, RETURN. I wake up drenched in sweat every time, but lately it's been worse. The dream doesn't end when I open my eyes. Last week, I woke up to find the word return scratched into my bedroom wall. Deep, jagged marks that I couldn't explain. I've tried everything, priests, shamans, cleansing rituals, you name it. Nothing works. It's like this thing is woven into my soul now, and there's no way to tear it out without losing myself entirely. This is my warning to you. If you ever see a Ouija board, no matter how curious you are, no matter how bored or drunk or skeptical you might feel, don't touch it. Don't even look at it. Because once you open that door, you can never close it. I'm living proof of that. And as I sit here, typing this, I can feel it again. The air is getting heavy. The storm is rolling in, the wind howling like some great beast. My lights are flickering, and there's that familiar sound. Creaking floorboards, slow and deliberate, right outside my door. It's here. And this time, I don't think it's leaving.